That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Monkey.
And we're almost there. We're in the top 20. It's the Great Disneyland Ranking Podcast. That's right. Just 2 more to go. The next time we meet, Monkey, we will be in the top 10. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I don't know. This was a tricky round for me because of course I feel like at this point everything here is going to be like, top tier. But of course then there's also the the dilemma once we get towards the bottom, like, okay, what is and isn't making it into the actual top 10.
Yeah, and then and then you get into questions of subjectivity and objectivity if you haven't already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's only
like a couple
one
things
DCA.
I have here that.
Sorry. I was just going to say there's only
like,
one DCA attraction in my top 10.
I haven't thought about how many DCAs are in my top 10. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same with me. Yeah, I know like my 17 and 18, those 2 attractions in particular, I had difficulty choosing one over the other.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my 20 almost wound up on as a 21, but choices were made.
Well, let's just jump into it. What is your number 20?
Well, my number 1 is Green Lantern First Flight.
Oh my God.
April Fools.
Yeah.
Taking advantage
I mean,
of
the number 1 has to be the SS Rustworthy, right?
Well, if we're going by closed attractions, then the number 1 would have to be Chip and Dale.
God.
Okay.
I feel like at this point, people are like too on to the Chip and Dale meme. Like the SS Rustworthy is something that nobody talks about.
Yeah, it feels like it should be the other way around.
Right.
But especially, we're getting more people who had whatever generation gap, the childhood memories of Chip and Dale, the childhood memories of SS Rustworthy. Anyway, neither of them are my number 20. Although one of them's kind of close. My number 20 I ended up giving to Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin.
Okay.
Now, of course, I haven't seen...
very close for me as well, as you know.
Yeah. And of course, disclosure, I have not seen I don't think I've been on it since pre-shutdown, so I know I'd kind of seen what the Jessica updates looked like before they closed Toontown, and I don't know if they've done anything else with it since Toontown reopened, so there's my blind spot. And honestly, I think what ended up being a deciding factor in putting this above Enchanted Wish is, like I talked about last time, that one transition in Enchanted Wish. Yeah. Honestly, there's probably going to be a lot of times in this tier where I'm like trying to find like what notes to say, like, what do I say? I mean, it's that or it's this. So, but yeah, this one, it's you got that, it's not fun to wait in, but you got that well-designed queue. You get to go through this whole toony dark ride. It's some good chaos and environments in there, some good, set pieces. Obviously, the portable hole is an amazing work of effects. And you get to peek into the ride from the queue. Thanks to the queue, you can actually distinctly hear the June foray weasel. Thank you. And yeah, it's got a nice atmosphere going for it.
Okay. All right, my number 20, we're going to go over to the Matterhorn bobsleds. Itchy Lot says we get to go upstairs and then downstairs. You're damn right.
Well, I mean, we almost did on Roger Rabbit, but no, the vehicles couldn't accommodate that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, so Matterhorn, I mean, I feel like we already said a lot about it when you did it the last time, but again, it's way more of kind of like, it's an icon of the park. Obviously, it's kind of the park centerpiece, especially considering it's unique to the park. And the ride itself, like, yeah, it's brutal, but man, I feel like it is really well done just from the point of view of like, like everything from the initial kind of like, even the seatbelt check is exciting because you're right there, like at the hole of the mountain waiting to go in. So it's like it kind of builds that anticipation. That's actually one of my favorite
the safety voice coming out of the rock work.
And then the lift hill, I think the lift hill all the way up till, like when the coaster really starts taking off after you pass the Crash Skyway bucket, like that's a really good, like modern Disney set piece, almost a little underrated how good it is with the modern refurb that they did with it. Of course,
New Herald well-done screen effect.
Yeah, for sure. New Herald is great. Of course, there's the Tomorrowland and the Fantasyland side, although I've heard that Lightning Lane kind of fucks that up, right? Like one side is exclusively Lightning Lane now.
Or something, or one side is or single riders exclusively one side.
So yeah, it's definitely not the easiest ride to get on either. But Ichilat says it's an icon, but it's painful. I'm actually kind of dreading the notion of riding it if I ever do get a chance to return to Disneyland. And you know what it also is? It's a ride that requires a lot of maintenance, which means that it has literally been down more times than it's been open when I've been at Disneyland, I think. I'd have to do the math on that and really check the dates on it. But, like, seriously, like, that's probably one of the reasons I appreciate it as much as I do, is that when it is open, it kind of feels like a treat. It's not going to be open this next trip. I mean, granted, I will gladly trade Splash, Thunder, and Indy being open for Matterhorn. Like, that's a really solid trade-off because all three of those were kind of like at risk of being closed at certain points, but still. It's
Tony Baxter arranged it.
Sure.
Yeah, I imagine like.
Oh my god! That trio is like that is the Tony Baxter trio right there. I didn't even think about
Tony Baxter trio, but yeah, I imagine like with it being closed, like the Abominable Snowman comes in and is like hung over or something from like partying and getting high the night before. So like, I can't do it today, guys, and that's why the ride is closed.
He's got that when he's singing First Time in Forever, that's just an embarrassing
an embarrassing snapshot of Harold at the Christmas party.
Exactly. All right. Number 19, what do you got?
My 19, it'll be interesting to see how you feel on this placement. I'm giving 19 to the Enchanted Tiki Room.
I mean, that's fair. That's totally fair. I already like acknowledge that there are some very, very dated elements to it.
Yeah. And it would be nice if the seats had better backs.
Well, that's why I always go for the back, like the back.
Yeah, I don't remember them being like that before 05. So I don't even really quite remember what the seats looked like before the 05 redo, but nevertheless. But anyway, yeah, it's a nice classic. You got even the pre-show, you got all the stuff with the Tiki Gods. You get you get the songs of it, you get various animatronics, and you get to disappear at the end. But yeah, it's a nice little classic of Disneyland, and I don't think I've really mentioned this before, but I feel like, especially after my last full Disney World trip or something, appreciating the place that shows have in the parks. Not too many in one park, of course, but the value of like, okay, here's a place, a way to still do an attraction, but also sit down for a while.
That has so much freaking value. Yeah, that right there, what you just said, that's exactly why I skipped the DCA day this trip.
But Turtle Talk.
Meh.
Yeah, I mean, but you're missing out on a PhilharMagic where the top of the screen is a black bar.
God. Anyways. Yeah, I think it'll be good doing Mr. Lincoln for my 6th time the trip on day 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yay Tiki Room.
All right, number 19 for me. I mean, this is an icon, man. At this point, we're really knocking out the heavy hitters. Number 19, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And it's like, God, I hate putting it that low, too. I really do. But I don't know. Again, we're just getting into just like banger after banger here. I will say the next few on my list are, well, I don't know. 16 and 15, I feel like, are going to be, those are more kind of like feed into my whole, Disneyland is a broad, like what it brings to Disneyland on a broader scale. But yeah, Mr. Toad is just like, it is the kind of iconic Fantasyland dark ride. Like, obviously Peter Pan's the most popular, but Mr. Toad just, it feels the most like a classic dark ride in the sense that it's literally all cardboard cutout sets. They've done jack shit to it as far as, modernizing it, which I think is for the better, because I think that the way that the ride is presented, I feel like, you would kind of lose some things if it had modern effects in some ways.
Like as far as effects, the only updated one I can think of is the fireplace embers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that.
And like they've redone character designs over the last like decade or so, but they're still flat.
Yeah. And then I think the ride vehicles are really kind of like underrated because you have that little wheel and you can pretend to drive.
They're doing like a wheelie the whole time.
Toad Hall, obviously, incredible exterior. It's crazy just how good that exterior is. That little window out into the courtyard that you pass by, the cigarette statue. Yeah.
For people listening without context, yes, there is a statue of a cigarette in the Mr. Toad queue.
You know what I'm talking about.
Of course I do.
All right. Itchy Lot saying, still not as bad as Grizzly Peak singing for the first. No. Oh, God. Out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on Florida's pre-show of Clyde and Claude? It's not as good. It's definitely not as good as the Disneyland pre-show. I'll say that much. I like the water feature. Really. Yeah,
I think I saw a video of it once, and I experienced it once. It doesn't stick with me as well as the William Morris one does.
Yeah, I like the waterfall. Like, it's a nice kind of area, but still, it doesn't hold a candle to the actual Enchanted Tiki Gardens. And more so, I would raise
gardens have seats.
Yeah, indeed. Exactly, that's one thing. And I will raise you the fact that the Tiki Room in Florida, it's too big. That show needs to be more intimate.
I don't get the layout of the one in Florida. It's like some weird diamond shape.
Yeah. All right. Anyway. So yeah, Toad is obviously iconic. It's just hard to, at this point, we're just getting into so many heavy hitters that it was hard to kind of justify placing it higher or lower, however you say that. Yeah. Anyways, words. Yeah. Okay, Cody's 18.
Okay, 18. Like I said, this and 17 were a bit difficult to decide on. What I ended up giving it to on this list, even if so, just as of this recording, maybe it'll change in the future. I don't know. 18, I placed for Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it's for me in my experience, it's a grows on you type of ride, and like it does kind of feel something that extends to all of Avengers Campus, really, where and it's like when it's over, you're like, that was it. But still, it's like I said, I've appreciated it more over the, riding it multiple times. It's still fun to have the drop sequences in this context. I'm not going to try and compare too much to Tower of Terror talking about it now. And I don't know where I would have ranked Tower. I hadn't thought of that.
But I'll say it right now. I prefer it to Tower of Terror. Like, I prefer it to Florida's Tower of Terror. And I know that that's a very, very controversial statement.
Yeah, there's things about Tower I prefer, but I will say Guardians is Mission Breakout is a more cohesive unit than Tower was. Like in the scenes or something.
And, I mean, obviously, as far as placemaking goes, Florida's Tower does not compete with this. But if you're just breaking down the actual ride itself, I think this is the superior one to the 3 I've been on.
But anyway, the drop stuff is fun. The pre-show is, a lovely addition. It's not just we made an animatronic rocket. We have little bits of him to further the illusion. Yes. You got some great little Easter eggs throughout the queue. I think my favorite profile is probably the Burn in Love one. And of course, Monsters After Dark, I feel I would rank above Mission Breakout. So,
yeah, honestly, for me, I'm kind of sliding Monsters After Dark into Mission Breakout. Okay. So maybe that's why I have it a little bit higher than you do, because it's hard for me to justify putting Monsters After Dark as its own thing, just because they literally can switch over in 15 minutes or something. But for me, it's still a factor.
Mm-hmm. And of course, going back to Breakout, I love it's great to have the music in the exit. Now, I'll hear a song and it'll be feels like I'm at Mission Breakout, walking through the exit or something. Or on the ride, I guess, but nevertheless.
Okay, here we go. Number 18 for me. This is, again, it's kind of we're taking the big heavy hitters off the board. This isn't a heavy hitter for some people, but it is for me. The Storybook Land canal boats.
There we are.
Yeah. Might I just say, I really do just value the Storybook Land complex just in general between the two rides so much at Disneyland. It's one of my favorite Disneyland things. And I don't know, honestly, I'm at a the only reason why this is as low as it is and not ranked in the top 10 or something is just because the loading system is certainly awkward. It's a little bit social anxiety inducing and a little bit close quarters. I feel like the cast interaction adds something to the attraction as far as I would rather the cast interaction be there as opposed to just kind of floating through Storybook Land Small World style. I feel like you'd lose a little bit of
especially the way these boats are set up.
Right. But it is
I don't think the one in Paris has a guide, but I think it's also seats differently.
So I feel like between the kind of close quarters and the social awkwardness with the cast member, it's not something that I'm gonna potentially do multiple times in a night, like Casey. Honestly, just being straight up. But it is certainly for me an absolute must do around the nighttime hours. It's such a gorgeous night ride. Honestly, for me, I don't even really bother with it during the day anymore because that's where the crowds are too. And it's not going to be at its best. But as a night ride, I mean, that's why genuinely for the first 2 out of 3 nights that I'm in Disneyland, outside of the one that I plan on with you, I am very much planning on spending most of that time in Fantasyland, both nights, because it's I don't know, Fantasyland is just such an awesome experience at night. And I think the 2 Storybook Land attractions for me are a big part of it. I'll get more into my
night is a great thing.
Indeed. I do also want to do a last ride of the night on the Jungle Cruise if I can manage that at some point.
Ooh.
Yeah. maybe if I get that extra day that I was telling you about, maybe I might do that. Anyways, so yeah, man, heavy hitter. But like I said, it is really like the attraction for me is almost obsolete during the day, not because it's bad, just because the night is like it's so much better at night. So, you know, I can't in all good consciousness put it that much higher, but it's still like a special night ride for me. So, all right, 17.
Right, 17, maybe a little higher than it needs to be. I decided to give to Toy Story Midway Mania! !
Okay.
Yeah. I think what put this like as maybe a little higher than Breakout or something is just how active you get to be during it. Hey, we're shooting at the targets, the 3D targets. I know, like, when I was younger, like, from its announcement to its opening, this was one I was super hyped for. So yeah, getting to see all of that.
You remember when it was rumored to be Midway Mania and the Toy Story characters weren't even involved? Can you remember that far back? Because I can.
A little. Like, I remember one of the official guide things had a Jim Hill blurb saying, like, oh, they might turn Millionaire Building into Midway Madness with the Toy Story characters.
Right.
And then, wow, here we are. It's happening. And I remember, like, getting to see them test the Mr. Potato Head animatronic, like, day before and day of my birthday, which was like a couple months before the ride opened.
That's neat.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, I was just hyped for the technology, like say the stuff with Potato Head, his interactivity and his ear, which never really happens anymore, and his mouth forming syllables, forming shapes, and with the ride, it's like what 3D rides were there at this time besides Spider-Man?
Not a lot.
Yeah, so I was like, and obviously this was some years, like a while before Transformers came over. The what?
Was Kong 360 a thing at this point?
No.
No?
No, I think that fire happened like, what, a few days before Midway opened here?
Yeah, you're right. Something like that. It was in the same time zone. Yeah,
so it's not just, a 3D ride, like a ride that has 3D parts, but also it's real-time 3D animation. Oh, mind-blowing. So that was me at the time. Yeah. So this, not a ride I get on as much, those wait times, huh? But yeah, it's a neat one. You get to go through the games and shoot at games. Fun. And I still got a soft spot for the design of the old boardwalk look of the place.
Oh yeah, it's a great design.
Yeah, got some good cue music in there as well. And
okay.
Yeah, I think that might be the most I have to say for Midway just now. Yeah, Midway Mania. I love this game. It's so insania. Everybody's playing. Everybody's saying you won't be the same once you play this game. Move the hat.
All right. So my number 17, this is going to be another controversial one, man. This is a big one. It's in most Disney fans' top 10. Jungle Cruise. Yeah, for me, I already kind of made the analogy a little bit, but like, if you have a really good skipper and a boat full of people that are in on it, it can be amazing. But there's also the possibility of you having a skipper that's literally just going through the motions, like just saying the most base level jokes in a kind of monotone way, and the boat is just not into it. And in those situations, I just get secondhand like social awkwardness from the skipper. So it's very much a ride that like depends on how good the skipper is for a big chunk of it. That being said, I mean, it does have, like, obviously it's the original Disneyland e-ticket, so historically it's got a lot of value to it. Night rides, again, I kind of feel like this is going to be like, you know, I feel like it's a solid choice. Like, you can catch it in the middle of the day with a low wait, and it's a solid choice to hop on if that's the case, because that doesn't always happen. But I also think it's a ride that's improved at night tenfold. Like, I think the flashlight element, it just makes everything just look more real. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the updates that they made to it. I think generally speaking, I really like all of them. And it does definitely give you a sense of adventure for sure. Like, honestly, that's why for me, if you have a skipper that's just kind of like going through the motions, that it does genuinely take away from it, because like a skipper that's going to be into it is going to add to that sense of adventure and add to the whole, you know, like, oh, we're actually going somewhere, we're doing something. Whereas if someone's just going for the motions, it kind of reminds you that we're in a theme park and this person is being paid way too little money to do a very repetitive job. And so, yeah, you know, again, social anxiety kind of like has a big factor in some of these rankings, and the Jungle Cruise is kind of a little bit of a casualty of that. But still, obviously, it's a big classic, top 20, you know. Not saying it's bad at all. Definitely look forward to getting back on it. Not something I would do over and over again, like most of the stuff in my top 10. So that's where I kind of come down on it. All right, 16.
16. All right, let's rip off this Band-Aid. 16, I'm given to Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Oh, my God.
It's top 20.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I guess I'm just drawn to rides.
I'm not going to argue you.
I say that after doing that whole pro show thing earlier.
Right.
So, disclosure, I've not seen the new pre-show yet. Anyway, but yeah, this is still a nice show to go sit at. You know, the content is still on the effective side, and of course, the animatronic is a really good one. You got some good exit music with Golden Dream. It's like I don't know how much more else there is to say. It's a nicely done show.
Well, obviously, I'm going to have more to say.
Yeah, and of course, you and I talked about this one. Well, like, what was it? Was that last year or a year before? Or, like, when we did talking about the various like political shows of Disney.
Did we do that?
Yeah.
That must have been like
this Hall of Presidents, American Adventure.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, for my money, I think this is like easily the superior like Disney history
Absolutely.
show.
Oh, totally. Yeah, glad they were able to bring it back in this form.
Yeah, and the new pre-show film shows me that they're definitely like interested in keeping it.
Yeah.
So that's always encouraging.
Yeah. So
all right.
I'm guessing when you're here, you'll still have to pass by the Tim Burton Dumbo statue.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And no, like the curtain opens, goes of the sculpture, and it's that statue just there for 5 minutes. With the music just still going, and then eventually the choir comes in.
The world has never had a good definition of the word liberty.
And of course, gotta love that visual at the end where the sky turns into resembles the American flag.
Oh my God! And
well,
the way that the curtain closes on his silhouette.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. obviously have a lot more to say about this.
It's kind of funny how he just sits there in the darkness for a while the choir sings.
I don't care.
I'm not surprised you don't care. There. I can sit again. You in the audience will sit. I've been standing delivering an impassioned speech for a while. Like, do you know how tired Royal Dano got recording this?
Hey, man, I can't
tell this now because they use a different take, but...
As a man who struggles to stand in one spot, as you know, I can totally relate to it. Him sitting makes
Mr.
him a
Lincoln's
man
favorite pre-show is Shrek 4Ds. I like the cut of this mirror.
All right, my number 16. This is probably higher than most people, and it's probably super controversial that it's above the Jungle Cruise, but I can explain. It's the Mark Twain Riverboat.
There it is.
First, let me break down the historical elements of this attraction. Because for me, that's a big reason why this is as high as it is. I think the Mark Twain Riverboat might be the most, like, visually iconic thing in all of opening day Disneyland. And the fact that it is gone on virtually untouched its entire life. I mean, obviously they've done paint jobs and touch-ups to it over the years, of course, but you know, the actual design, the visual of it is exactly the same. There are very, very pivotal moments in Disney history that happened aboard this ship or in conjunction with this ship. I am thinking specifically Walt and Lily's wedding anniversary that happened the day before the park opened. That big party that they threw on the Mark Twain. I'm thinking of the image of Walt overlooking the rivers of America on Frontierland and kind of like contemplating his future and contemplating his mortality when he found out he had lung cancer. There's like, you know, there's a lot of history with this attraction. Like, I feel, this is going to sound like totally like screwball, but I feel Walt's presence with the Mark Twain probably more so anywhere else in the park except for, except for the fire station, if that makes sense.
Wait, you don't feel Walt's presence on the Ferris wheel?
God. And then as far as the actual like ride goes, once again, night rides are a treat and a rare treat because of the Fantasmic factor.
But moments in Disney history.
But as far as the ride, I would wager to say, this is going to sound like a weird statement, but I really think it's true. It feels the most like a full-fledged adventure more than anything else in Disneyland for me.
I can see that.
Because it really feels like you are taking a journey when you go around that river, especially with the new rock work and the trestle and the way the rocks blend into Big Thunder. Not only that, but there's glorious, glorious, sweet, sweet, glorious seating aboard the Mark Twain. And you don't have to wear out your arms like you do on the canoes. It's like, it's just like, it's the perfect, comfortable, stately, historic way to see the rivers of America. I think for me, it's kind of like, it's right up there with the shows in the park as far as being like a perfect kind of like way to escape the crowds and just get out of the, out of the hustle and bustle of the park and really experience something at the same time. I don't know. I just think it's really, really valuable. I could not imagine the park without it. I really couldn't. So yeah, like obviously it's not like going to be a super e-ticket or anything like that, and honestly, if they didn't fix up the rivers for Star Wars Land the way they did, there's no way this is making it into the top 20, honestly. But they did fix up the river, and the river looks amazing now. And so I have to give the best way to get around the rivers of America a big high spot, especially considering, the history of it and the fact that there are literal like biopic worthy moments that have happened aboard this thing if that makes sense. So, yeah, I hope that convinced some people that this is not a crazy spot for the Mark Twain. All right. Number 15, Monkey, what do you got?
15, I put with Soarin' Over California. So yeah, as we kind of intuited before,
nice work, pal.
Yeah, as we kind of said before, I'm not a fan of Around the World, at least not at DCA, or just generally. And it's funny, something that's both why
you should at least accept it in Epcot. I mean, come on, it fits perfectly.
Yeah, I can kind of. Well, it's easier to roll with there, especially since that's not where I live. But, you know, the thing that particularly turns me against Around the World and is part of what makes Soarin' Over California so good is that damn music. So good, so iconic, beautiful, goes nicely with the film as well. And yeah, of course, you know, there are some maybe like I know, yeah, it's the capacity, not necessarily the best, and yeah, sides of the screen. You know, like, no joke, a lot of the times, like, especially in my teen years onward, like, I go through this holding my hands to the sides of my eyes to block out those peripherals.
I can see that.
But you know, it's still a good film. You know, it's not necessarily thrilling. It's still a good trip. It's trip like a ride, not like the other kind. Or that
for me, Over the World is, I guess maybe that's part of the reason why I like Over the World is that it does kind of have the thrill factor a little bit more.
Okay, yeah. Like that, I remember kind of liking how they did the bridge in Around the World. Great Wall of China.
I still think that the opening segment in over the Matterhorn is fucking super underrated.
Yeah, going into the clouds on Around the World, that was decent too.
Like that Matterhorn, like that Matterhorn scene for me is the best Soarin' scene, like out of the two. Like I don't know, there's something about it for me.
But yeah, I mean, like otherwise, I mean, in contrast, I really appreciate the chillness of Over California, like. Especially is the sort of thing that like just screams like beautiful's to me. The Malibu bit where it's sunset on the water. Mm-hmm. Oh yes, and you get the scents in the ride, like the oranges and the ocean smell. It's just it comes together quite well, and just a little more kvetching about Around the World. But like here, they actually timed the fireworks with Tinkerbell and the music better. Like there's more thought into it. Like it's not just Tinkerbell shows up, all the fireworks are gone off. No, it's like Tinkerbell shows off, sets off the fireworks, and the fireworks start up in time with the music. Mm-hmm. Yes, nice work, pal. And yeah, you know, pre-show that's become, you know, it's not really aiming to become iconic, but it did become iconic.
Yeah. Probably one of the most quotable pieces of Disney media, honestly.
Yeah. I don't see why they can't still show what the height indicator looks like, you know, so parents don't have to be like, oh God, what does the height indicator look like? So I know whether or not I'm buckling in my child properly. You know, it's funny. I still have this like memory from like early 2000s watching some episode of Teacher's Pet, and like my mother commenting that, you know, this one character who was in that episode was, you know, the guy Patrick from Soarin'. Yeah, that was fun. So yeah, Soarin' Over California. It's like, you know, and again, just sort of, I'm so glad that they bring it back sometimes. And like, you know, I think I might have mentioned to you in the past, like somewhere in the last year, where it's like, I don't like not knowing when I would end up at DCA again. And then, hey, Soarin's coming back from the spring. I'm like, oh, that'll do it then.
Yeah.
this position of getting me back to DCA soon to be filled by Rogers the Musical.
Right, I feel that. If I would have actually managed to time out Rogers the Musical, that probably would have swayed my DCA thing one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, they still haven't said when that's going to be.
So. Exactly, yeah. Watch the, like, fucking reveal that it comes out my week, like, the week before my trip.
Oh. Yeah.
Even still, I'm excited about the luxury of time when it comes to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like, with
what if
3
they somehow
days,
time the Splash Mountain closing announcement with the Rogers opening announcement?
Oh my god. Like, with 3 days at Disneyland, there's literally 0 time pressure. So, like, I'm feeling really freaking good about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Very respectful move to make.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Respectable.
Number 15 for me. It's going to be very similar to the Mark Twain. Very kind of similar, like legacy and history and ties the park together kind of qualities. The Disneyland Railroad. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a banger. Like, I really do. It's like, and I feel like it's got a factor to it, unlike any other attraction at Disneyland, which is you don't have to get off. You can literally game this thing and like marathon it as long as you possibly can. So like that to me is such a, do I ever want to go around more than once? No, not really, honestly. But sometimes.
How many times do you want to go around? I couldn't resist.
Oh God, that's such a deep cut reference, man.
That's what I'm here for, deep cuts.
But sometimes what I'll do is I'll like get on at New Orleans Square, take the round trip just to see everything, and then let's say take it again to Tomorrowland or something if I'm going that direction. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like do a round trip plus wherever my ultimate destination is going to be. So yeah, and I do think it's a shame that the Main Street to New Orleans Square side is pretty damn uneventful. It really is. It's like it's the worst of the four.
I mean, it's got
every other one
than Fantasyland to Tomorrowland.
Well, Fantasyland to Tomorrowland, I was going to bring that up. That has the small world overview, which
I realized that as I was saying it
is really, really awesome, especially for someone like me who's a big like sucker for small world. I love that perspective. It's one of the highlights of the whole trip for me. And then obviously,
what I was going with that is like, you know, the Main Street to New Orleans, you know, you got Jungle, the Jaguar, and the Mardi Gras stuff in the tunnel, and then Fantasyland to Tomorrowland, aside from Small World and just passing by Autopia and the monorail, it's a billboard.
But it's a clever billboard, though.
Yeah. Wonderful billboards as far as the eye can see. No wonder they put it after the Toontown station.
At this point, I honestly think the New Orleans Square to Fantasyland stretch, it's not as good as the, like, obviously Tomorrowland to Main Street, the dioramas, obviously that's the way to go. If you're going to see one thing on the railroad, you have to see that. But I think that journey through Frontierland over the river, I mean, I think that comes close. Like, I really think that,
like you get Splash Mountain through there.
Yeah.
Over Critter Country along the river, and then and then another tunnel.
Yeah, like I really think, and it just ties the park together too, because like that one spot with the train trestle, if you think about it, that is like the most kinetic energy that we have in the whole park, because in that one spot we've got the train, the canoes, the Mark Twain, occasionally the Columbia, although I literally don't remember the last time I saw the Columbia running. And then also, if you want to go further, you know, you've got the people on Tom Sawyer Island, you've got the Splash Mountain logs going down, you know, it's such a kinetic little, like, corner of the park. It's it really is like old school Disneyland in that way.
Yeah. Like I said, that brilliant gag with the beaver below the trestle.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, the Disneyland Railroad, obviously with the Walt factor too, the park literally would not exist without this attraction. It really ties everything together. Honestly, if the Main Street to New Orleans Square section was a little bit more interesting, I might be tempted to put this in the top 10. So, all right. Fair. Theme Park Priest is here. My number 18 Priest is also Jungle Cruise, is it not? No, Jungle Cruise is my number 17, but we're close. We're close on some things. All right. So let's transition. Number 14, Monkey. What do you got?
14 for me, I gave to Little Mermaid Ariel's Undersea Adventure.
Oh, wow. That's really high.
Yeah. I know this is another one, like Midway, a ride that I had been very hyped for. And I remember like going through it for the first time and loving every moment of it. And okay, just getting the cons out of the way. Yeah, that string of the 3 scenes at the end could be handled stronger or more strongly. But nevertheless, I mean, aside from that, I love having another Omnimover in the parks, and it's a very efficient ride system.
It is. I won't argue with you there.
Yeah.
I think it's the closest thing that California Adventure has to just a sit back and chill ride, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, probably is. It's now I still have an appreciation for how, for the facade and queue. That's me. And I mean queue and station anyway. You get some nice animatronics in there. Like you said before, the descent is a great bit with especially feeling the cool air on your face as you go below the surface. You got the classic Little Mermaid music. And so yeah, it's a weird comparison, but maybe this is like DCA's equivalent of Winnie the Pooh, where it's like a convenient, just go on that option.
I could totally see that. Yeah. All right. That is fair.
Do we have time for me to share a funny little story?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I remember this was like January 2020. I'm at the parks with a friend, and like I'd kind of already told her about the Mermaid series. So we're on the ride. The ride has started. We're passing by the Scuttle at the beginning, and I mentioned how Scuttle was according to the series, Scuttle was responsible for Beethoven's Fifth.
Oh, God.
My friend looks at me with the wait, what look, and then the ride stops as if the ride itself is going, wait, what?
That's funny. God.
So yeah, I think that's what I got for there.
All right. Number 14. This was a very, very weird one for me to rank because of the current situation. But it's Splash Mountain, baby. Yeah, I forget. Did you already do this one?
No, I have. No, I have it higher.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird, right? Because it's literally like on its last legs. Like, I am genuinely kind of like, I have a little bit of existential dread for how bad of a shape it's going to be in when I do ride it, assuming it does not just close on me.
Hopefully there won't be any more just characters in darkness, at least.
I mean, that's kind of what I feel. That's kind of what I'm dreading. Yeah, but as far as the actual ride goes, I don't know. This might be a hot take. I honestly feel like there's some elements of this that are better than Florida.
I don't disagree.
Specifically, I think it is a little bit more immersive. Like, I feel like I am in like a cave when I am in Splash Mountain, and in Florida, I feel like Florida does these weird kind of like outdoor bits where it feels more like, okay, you're just like in a dark ride show building. Does that make sense?
Yeah, here we just have that one matte backdrop or whatever near Brer Fox and Brer Bear. That's otherwise it's a very cave.
Right.
With,
so, like,
you know, the stuff coming down from the ceiling, but otherwise.
So obviously Florida's got a few more like set pieces, although the Brer Rabbit never works. I think I've seen it work like twice.
And Florida's had the clearer storytelling, but anyway.
But I think California actually has the better, like, the more flowing environment. Like the way that they do the environment actually kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Calico River ride, as far as I know that's a weird comparison, but just as far as like every inch of it is kind of like covered in rock work in a way, if that makes sense. Like it's rock work inside and out, and you've got the moss on the ceiling. You've got, you know, like the possums in that one section overhanging. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and
I guess there's that sunset backdrop as well, if we're being pedantic. But anyway,
sure. Yeah, but the sunset backdrop, I honestly don't mind as much, because since it is the finale of the ride, I kind of feel like I can take.
This is just me being like actuallying myself.
Sure. But I just as far as like a Disney Mountain goes, I do think that this perfected like the pacing in regards to, it's a lengthy ride, but it's also thrilling. And frankly, I don't really think many attractions in the world get that combination right as well as Splash Mountain does. And it's good to know that no matter what they do with Tiana, you know, whether or not it's good or bad or whatever, it's good to know that at the very least that pacing is going to remain intact. Because just from the sheer point of view of just the layout of the log flume itself, if you think about it, you've got so many different, like, in, you know, ascents and drops, and you're all over the place elevation wise. I really, really think it takes full advantage of the actual log flume genre in a way that most other log flume rides just don't. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, like, Garrett even kind of has this opinion of like, oh, the Knott's log ride is better than Disneyland Splash Mountain. And honestly, I love the Knott's log ride, but no, it's not. I'm sorry, Garrett. Disneyland just has too much going for it. It's iconic. It's, you know, obviously you've got the finale. The actual drop is incredibly memorable. I really hope they don't fuck that up with Princess and the Frog. They literally had an opportunity to improve on it, and they're probably not going to take it, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I'm definitely curious where you have it ranked, because obviously with it being, you know, like on its last legs, quite literally, I found it to be like,
I think with me it was kind of like a matter of like where it is in comparison to a specific attraction or two, and where that turned up.
All right. Okay, number 13.
Okay, my 13 I gave to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
I think that's an appropriate 13.
Yeah, like I don't know if I have a ton to say, but kind of like we said before, some good old school dark ride madness. You go around and pass by the things and the wacky characters, and you have the good music in hell, and that bit in the queue where it's like, oh, the car, you just watch the people going into the ride and then back out and then back in. Yeah, but yeah, it's an intimate one, and I mean, what else is there aside from like I guess the judge, prosecutor, whoever being a potential meme, like his line. Yeah, and you go through a lot of doors.
Indeed.
I mean, I know that you have those with other rides too, but I don't know. Maybe it feels a bit notable with this one.
All right, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I am not feeling good about my number 13 being as high as it is. I'm really not feeling good about it being higher than like the Disneyland Railroad and the Jungle Cruise and the Mark Twain.
13, you're concerned about. How thematic?
Like I really, it's Mission Breakout, but I really don't think this should be as high as it is. I really don't. I feel like I overrated it. And honestly, I'm just gonna say it now. Like, part of the process, like one of the effects that this process has had on me in regards to literally like stacking up the resorts and the parks against each other and the attraction lineups is that really California Adventure's attraction lineup does not hold a candle to Disneyland's. It's not even close. It's not even close. So in
that took you till now to realize? Waka waka.
So in that regard, like, I think that's the reason why I do have Mission Breakout ranked so high, is that outside of Radiator Springs Racers, which is the DCA attraction that is in my top 10, I think it's pretty clearly, for me, the best attraction in the park, at least. I mean, I know you have it ranked, you have a couple other things ranked a little bit higher, but so let's talk about the positives first.
Others, like, those other ones were stuff I may have more of a long time connection to than Mission Breakout. But
sure. So, like, and I did say that I am kind of factoring in Monsters After Dark as well into this. So honestly, that might be part of why it's ranked as high as it is. Because I really do think it's impressive how they do Monsters After Dark. I think Monsters After Dark is like a fully immersive new experience that's completely separate from the day ride, and they do such a quick turnover on it, and it's like probably the most edgy Disney attraction that I have ever been on, you know, as someone who didn't get the chance to go on Alien Encounter, which probably is the only thing that would give it a run for its money.
Superstar Limo.
But like, I just think that it is kind of like back when I was talking about the flat rides and like how I would rank the flat rides, you know, like some flat rides have a fun factor, others don't. Like, as far as the actual like full-blown e-ticket attractions in Disneyland, this one might be the one with the biggest like full-on fun factor. I think the idea of switching the Tower of Terror elevators into a space shot was a bold and brilliant decision on the Imagineers' part. I really do. I think it was like for me, it fundamentally changes the experience. It makes it less of like a dreadful buildup and more of just like a full-on adrenaline rush all the way through from beginning to end.
See Joe Rohde talking about it in the Imagineering story.
Indeed. Easily the most airtime out of any Disney attraction, bar none, especially when it's in Monsters After Dark mode. Easily. Like, it's not even
I'm semi-genuinely trying to remember how the airtime is on Jumpin' Jellyfish.
Oh, God. Well, too bad I canceled my DCA day, or else I would have checked for you. And me doing that would have genuinely been a fuck. What the fuck do we do? Oh, yeah, I guess I can check on the airtime.
Oh, my God. Am I just now sort of starting to mentally talk myself into doing Jellyfish when I go? I mean, Zephyr, that feels a bit more of a... Yeah, that feels more right to talk myself into that because of this list. Jellyfish, not as much. Maybe if I have time. I don't know if I will. I got stuff on the other side of the park to see and schedule.
And yeah, obviously the queue is fantastic. Like, I wish the outdoor queue, I wish they could do a little bit more to that area, make it a little bit more like Florida, where you've got the courtyards and stuff like that. I wish it could be a little bit more, like, at least shaded. But once you get inside the building, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of like the Haunted Mansion, right? It's like, as far as I'm concerned, the attraction's already started at that point, practically.
Yeah, it's one of those where it starts making me wonder, well, okay, where does the main attraction actually begin? Well, how much is considered the attraction?
I mean, I think the posted wait time just considers when you get on the elevator.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, same thing with Indy.
Well, I mean, in the sense of like, yeah, or like kind of also tying into, well, okay, in Rise, what's a pre-show or attraction? Especially if we're going by how long the quote-unquote main ride is in either case.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it's like, it's one of Joe Rohde's last things that he did, and I think he did it really, really well. I think it's it kind of reminds me of like an actual So You Want to Be an Imagineer project, where it's like, you know, like Disney was like, hey, Joe, do this. Use an IP that you probably don't like to come up with something creative.
Because we have this loophole in our contract.
Right.
Now, something I'd like to know with Mission Breakout is, whatever happened to that little golden gnome who was there on opening day, but I think disappeared shortly after?
All I want them to do is just make that damn collector statue into a partner statue of Howard the Duck, man. That's all I want. All right. Okay. Anyways, number 12. What do you got?
Okay, so my number 1 is man getting hit by football. April Fools. Okay. My number 12, I gave to Jungle Cruise.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good time. Nice, trip through the jungles. Skippers offer some variety. The updates I thought were done very nicely. So yeah, it's a nice adventure to go on at Disneyland.
Got it.
Essentially, I don't know how much else to say.
You don't have to it's all good.
I mean, I guess I can give props to the new version of the Rhino scene for feeling very Mark Davis-y, or like a new adding on to the Mark Davis-iness of it.
For sure.
Monkeys and primates. Monkeys and apes in the ride. And elephants.
And all right, my number 12. I had a really hard time ranking like 12 and 11. I really did. Again, this is another classic, and you're probably going to be surprised it's not in my top 10. It's Alice in Wonderland.
And
again,
I'm a little surprised for you right here.
Like, we are really getting into like the top tier here. Like, Alice in Wonderland, I mean, for my money, it is absolutely, without a doubt, the best of the Fantasyland dark rides. Even if you factor in like the ridiculous Pan wait time, it's still better than Pan. But it's also the second hardest to get on outside of Pan. But unlike Pan, there are actually times where you can get on it. The wait time does significantly decrease at night, unlike Pan. So, and I think it's a little bit better at night as well, because you've got the Mad Tea Party there, and it kind of turns into its own little light show area. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just think this whole ride is like very, I mean, with the projection mapping and everything, I really think it toes the line into like D-ticket territory. I really do, especially with it being 2 stories. I genuinely like all the other Fantasyland dark rides, the yard dark rides, if you will. They all kind of have that like more old school feel, where it's like, as charming as they are, it is very much like, yeah, okay, here we are. We're going on like a quick little recap of the movie. Toad is definitely the best of the four in that regard because Toad actually feels like it's an experience rather than just a recap. But Alice is recap. But Alice is something different. Alice, I think, is like it genuinely feels like an adventure. And starting with the rabbit hole, I can't even tell you how much I enjoy. This is like one of those dumb little simple pleasures of Disneyland. But I enjoyed that little stretch of winding track before the rabbit hole so much.
Yeah. Footprints. It's so weird. You're like looking at old pictures of how it was before the 80s refurb. It looks like that part wasn't winding. It was just a slight curve up the ramp.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely, I think, out of all the Fantasyland dark rides, this is definitely the one that went through the biggest renovations over the years. Because it went through a huge renovation in the 80s, and then it also obviously went through the first and, for my mind, extensive projection map renovation.
Yeah.
Of what they've been
doing. All the ramp stuff.
Then again, I haven't been on Snow White yet, so I imagine that's probably extensive as well.
I mean, how could it be extensive? They changed the whole ending.
All right. So, yeah. And again, like this and number 11, you're going to see, like when I reveal my number 11, you're going to see why it was a hard choice, because it's very much kind of like two rides of a similar genre, one very nostalgic, one, well, you'll see.
Yeah, I have a guess as to what it is. But...
Number 11.
Yeah, so my number 11, this will be fun to get the reactions to. Number 11, I have given to Indiana Jones Adventure.
Ooh, spicy. Okay.
And third time for this episode, I have not seen the updates yet.
What I will say for this is that I have seen the updates. I've not seen them in person, but I've seen video of them. Mm-hmm. And obviously, without any spoilers, I can say that the updates have put this from being in this tier to being in the top 10 tier.
Good.
I will say that much.
Yeah. It's sort of like, I've been thinking like, Indy's not a necessary one for me.
No spoilers in the comments for the updates, please, people.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, Ropan, we made some updates. Well, gee, now I have to do it the next time I get there. But anyway, so yeah, getting this out of the way. Maybe part of the reason is
that is substantial that you definitely want to see for sure.
Yeah. So I just getting the sort of admittedly stuff out of the way first. This might be one which I know some others like. Certainly, like there's at least a couple in my top tier that are like this, where it's subject to the "I'm used to it now" effect, and and also this is a bit silly, but maybe it's partially from doing single rider a lot, but for some reason it's a pet peeve for me that you have to walk through the whole thing again when you exit.
Well, I mean, like, how else are you going to do it?
I don't deny that. I don't deny that you need to walk all that way.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is a pain in the ass. That's why I prefer to not.
No, the redundancy of like, we're walking through these same rooms again, and also like it's more time for the, whatever excitement of being on the ride to wear off, but.
Yeah, like I said, that is a factor on why I don't really want to rope drop it, just because that is like a big chunk of time just to get to the actual Jeeps and back.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my pet peeve, and that's not even the main ride. So the main ride, it's a good one. It is. You got some nice music in there, unsurprisingly, and of course. It's still an impressive effort. I wish I could have known just how groundbreaking it felt when it opened.
It still felt pretty groundbreaking when I rode it like 10 years later.
Yeah, fair. But I mean just like the mindset of like being there when it was opened and when it was such a new type of thing.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure in the moment.
Oh my God, a majorly detailed room we keep returning to? What?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, when I first went on it, that whole thing of like the one main room, like that whole layout, that was like, oh my God. There was very much a factor of like, when you see the overview, when you see the Jeep going over the bridge and you're like, oh my God, we're about to do that. Holy shit.
Yeah. And maybe it's also like a sense of like me being a touch contrarian of like, it's a popular thing, so here's some nitpicks. But still a very respectable attraction.
All right. Well, Monkey, I was going to rank this next attraction in my top 10 until I hit the track switch.
I should have seen that coming from that pause.
Was that what you were guessing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just because you had mentioned it in your recommendeds for the collage.
Oh, that too, yeah. Number 11's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Honestly, this was in my top 10, but there is one asterisk to it that kept it out of the top 10 for me.
So you hit that asterisk!
I worry about the condition of the queue. The queue feels like it's getting really beat up.
Is it?
That's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing that almost daily it's taking damage.
Wow, I've not been aware of that. Dang.
But, I mean, like, I don't know. I definitely can't judge this too much before I actually do the Disneyland version, because obviously I'm kind of like going like my ranking here is kind of like a mix of seeing the video of the queue and my actual experiences riding the Florida version. But I mean, it is a very, very good attraction, and I feel like it's something that we desperately needed at Disneyland, which was a brand new kind of like high caliber, family friendly dark ride. Like Rise of the Resistance is what it is.
Hype requirement.
Exactly. Nemo subs, very much kind of like, I'm still debating whether or not I even want to do those at all. This, for me, is kind of like the modern kind of Disney classic. And I do have attachment to the idea. I do remember, the first time I saw the idea pitched at D23, I loved it. I love the idea of doing a Mickey Mouse attraction. I love the idea of using a train as the centerpiece. I love the fact that we were getting a new original song. And I loved it so much that I made a point to actually get out and do it on the opening day, which is the first time I have ever done that for anything major theme park.
That was a good time at Hollywood Studios.
And then the world went to shit. I mean, it really is crazy how close that timing was. Like, it was open for what, like less than a week?
Like less than 2, I think. But yeah, there's that's one of the reasons my nickname for that vacation is the Miracle Trip.
Oh, it really was, though. It really was.
Yeah. Like, my God.
So yeah, I don't really have a ton to say about Railway. It's in your top 10, right?
It wound up in there.
Yeah.
So I'll have more to say on it then.
Sure. It's just really solid all the way around. There are certainly like 1 or 2 rooms that I do feel like, I think the one room where I do feel the whole like, yep, we're in a warehouse is the rainforest room before the waterfall. Like, I don't know what it is about that room. It just kind of gives me that vibe a little bit. Maybe it's just the fact that it's like a very vertically tall room. I don't know. But other than that, I think all the other show scenes are very, very impressive and immersive. And there's like a ton of little projection effects that I still have not found. Like, for example, did you know that the water, the water fountain in the park is like projected water.
Yeah, I think I figured it was projected water. So
I think that's really cool. Like, the fact that they have like little like water droplet sized like mats that they project onto. I don't know. That's really cool.
Yeah. And as you were saying about it being another good addition, it's for the park. It's in the back, so that gets people back there.
It's saved Toontown. I mean, let's just be straight up. It's saved Toontown.
Yeah.
Although it also killed Chip and Dale's treehouse.
Hmm.
All right, you want to run down your list really quick?
Then. So the way I did things is number 20, Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. Number 19, Enchanted Tiki Room. Number 18, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Number 17, Toy Story Midway Mania. Number 16, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. Number 15, Soarin' Over California. Number 14, The Little Mermaid Ariel's Undersea Adventure. Number 13, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Number 12, Jungle Cruise. And number 11, Indiana Jones Adventure.
Okay, for me, number 20, The Matterhorn Bobsleds. Number 19, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. 18, The Storybook Land Canal Boats. 17, Jungle Cruise. 16, The Mark Twain. 15, Disneyland Railroad. 14, Splash Mountain. 13, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. 12, Alice in Wonderland. And 11, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. All right. Okay, well, I would like to thank Theme Park Priest, Itchy Lot Productions, and Z&K Channel for their comments on this show. And we will be back.
Also, just saying, Itchy Lot, props to you for refraining on the Irene Dunn adjusting her bustle gag. Classic gag, but easy.
Yeah. And we will be back this time next week for our top 10 Monkey.
Actually,
oh my God.
I want to talk to you about the scheduling for next week, but we
should
be here same day next week.
Same day. Maybe not the same time, but definitely the same day.
Yeah, we're stuck in an April Fool's Day loop. So, Bill Murray's like, oh, you too, huh?
The only way to get out of the loop is to hit the tracks!